I think with men, the word is vulnerability. Okay. To feel vulnerable in front of people and say, I feel sad, or I feel depressed, or I feel, like I can't cope, is a very difficult thing to come out with sometimes. And this is a very generalized comment. Okay. Compare that with women. Often women have close groups of friends and they are able to talk about these feelings more openly and don't necessarily have to have a conversation with a solution at the end. Does that make sense? So men, again, generalized, if there's a problem, we need to somehow fix it. Okay. So if I'm depressed, I'm broken, I need to have something to fix that problem. Okay. And but with women, you can talk it out. It doesn't necessarily need to have a fix at the end of it, which is actually a good way of looking at anxiety and depression. Okay. So with anxiety and depression, when men go through that, it's the conversation is about, okay, how can I feel better? Okay. With women, it's a conversation about how can I understand how I feel? Okay. So there's an emotional part of it that, um, and with expressing vulnerability for men, it's a difficult thing. So it can be a difficult thing because the words don't always, you can't even have the words to describe these things, especially in Asian culture. Um, it's difficult for me to speak to a lot of men in my family even, and ask them if there's something that's been going on in our family, something quite difficult, to ask them how you're doing, and you just say fine, fine, fine. Okay. And to not be able to openly say, okay, I feel a bit like this, or I feel very low, I don't feel like getting up in the morning, it's a difficult conversation to have. So I think what we need to do is open up these conversations a bit more and have men's groups in community centers or something like that, on a more of a open, friendly, familiar kind of conversation that happens, to have that peer support. So people who look like them, speak like them, have the same background as them, to talk about what they're collectively going through and support each other. So yeah, that's why I'm a big fan of this type of initiatives, like walking groups. That's a huge, amazing thing to do. Sports groups, things like that. Coffee mornings, go for chai together, and do it on the theme of how do I look after my mental health. I'm not qualified in music therapy specifically, but it's a passion of mine. So I am a musician. I play the guitar and I make my own music. And but as a doctor as well, I saw the need that people, again, it comes back to connection. And I think music is one of those things that helps somebody connect to something. Okay, that might be themselves, that might be another person's inspiration, or the music that you're listening to. It might be a Bollywood film, might make you feel a certain emotion. Okay. And the music part of it is a language. Okay. So it's when you can't express certain things in words, the music is kind of a medium between how you're thinking and the emotion, and it kind of gives you that voice without having to put it into words, which is why, going back to that conversation about men's well-being, if we are able to use a language that isn't words and doesn't express vulnerability in such a obvious way, getting men together and forming a band or playing music, it's a huge thing for well-being. And I'm sure you in your own life, you experience music in such a way that just gets you up, gets you moving, gets goosebumps. So there's something that happens within us when we listen to music that makes us feel more alive. And that's what's interesting to me as a doctor, because if we were able to tap into a channel and actually prescribe music or give music in a way that awakens a certain part of your brain, if we can get some science behind this and understand it a bit better, then, for instance, with men's mental health, we can have certain types of music to help them with anxiety, depression, those type of symptoms, um, or the making of music collectively to kind of help form communities and things like that. So yeah, so what I'm doing is something called creative medicine, which is a project that talks about how creativity, not just music, but art, film, dance, all these things can improve health in a very general way, and just talking to people, showcasing how they're doing it in their own lives, so that we can learn from each other and develop a community.